Hi, I'm Adam Taylor with ITS. In this new video series, we're going to be taking a look at LanSchool's unsung hero, the LanSchool Report Server. LanSchool Report Server was added at the tail end of 2016, back in September, so it's been on the market now for just over 2 years, and despite this, only about 20% of our customer base is actually using it. And in this series, we'll be exploring every aspect of the report server, right from the installation, the setup, the configuration, having a quick tour around the interface and the different reports you can run, all the way through to the back end, some of the technical details, and then how it can fit into your workflow, whether you're a teacher, a technician, an IT manager, or even somebody on the leadership team. So on the screen, we have our current LanSchool setup, fairly standard. On the top left side, we've got the domain controller, which is running Active Directory, also the DNS, and all of our group policies are run from here as well, so kind of our mother brain. Top middle, we have the LanSchool connection server, so transmitting traffic across multiple VLANs, multiple subnets, covering all the various different platforms like Windows and Android, iPad, and obviously Chromebooks as well. Top right, we have a brand new server, which we're going to be using for the LanSchool Report Server install. And then finally a tech console, safeguarding console, teacher console, and 3 students along the bottom. So I'll just expand the new server outwards, you can see. Now with regards to the report server spec, what we tend to recommend is around 4 gig of RAM if you have about 500 students. If you're over 1,000, please do bump that up to 8. Anything more than that, you're just going to have to sort of follow the same pattern and scale that appropriately. It's worth bearing in mind that the report server is, as a server, it's always on and it's always monitoring every live connection. So it really depends how many clients you have running LanSchool at any one time. In a school of about 700, that could be around 500 at any one time during class. On top of the 4 to 8 gig of RAM, we also recommend you give us about a 2 gig overhead on the hard drive. Make sure you've got something like a virtual server that could be scaled in that regard. Windows Server itself takes about 25 gig on its own, so if you could just maybe put another 5 on top of that, then we'll be fine. This machine's actually got a 30 gig hard drive. We also recommend having virtual gigabit Ethernet. So the more bandwidth, the better. Obviously, we are monitoring a lot of concurrent connections at once, so we definitely want to be able to handle all of that traffic. So to demonstrate that, I'll just quickly load the task manager. Pop that to the side there, and also just go to my computer as well. So you can see the kind of specs we're looking at. So here we're operating a Windows Server 2016 with 4 gig of RAM. So you can see here we've got 4 gig of RAM, less than half of that is used by the OS at the moment on a clean build. 4 GHz desktop processor, not really being strained by anything, and virtual gigabit Ethernet as well. We can see here that Server 2016 takes roughly 20 gig with the updates installed, so that leaves us with plenty of space to install our report server into. A couple of other additional requirements for the report server. So we do require that you have port 80 and port 8080, 8081 and 8082 available. These are standard HTTP and HTTPS ports, and we do use them for the LanSchool report server. The server doesn't have to be dedicated, but we do strongly recommend it, just because of the prevalence of software that does use those ports, which can obviously cause conflict and prevent our installation. You also want to make sure that IIS isn't installed. IIS will conflict with those ports as well because it uses port 80. And finally, we do need .NET 4.5 installed. Now this is included with the Windows updates. It's also included with Server 2016. If you're running Server 2012, you can just run a Windows update and install it. And if you don't want to use Windows Update, you can just go to the Microsoft website and download .NET 4.5. So to run through those requirements one more time, we want to have 20 gig hard drive for the OS. We want to have maybe 2 gig on the side for us, maybe a little bit more for overspill. 4 gig of RAM, 8 gig ideally if you can afford it. We also want to have gigabit Ethernet. We want to make sure that the CPU isn't being maxed out by the operating system alone, and really we just want to make sure those ports are available. So again, that's 80, 8080, 8081 and 8082, no IIS, and make sure that .NET 4.5 is installed. If you've done all that, then there'll be nothing else to stop you from downloading the LanSchool report server and getting up and running, so let's do that right now. So if you haven't done it already, if this is a first time install, just log into the LanSchool customer portal and download whatever the latest copy of the LanSchool zip is. Once you've got that downloaded, we do recommend that you put that on a network share because you'll need to access it from various machines. And then just download a local copy from your network share and just pop it right onto the report server. Once it's unzipped, you go to the tech console folder, and within that tech console folder, you'll have report server setup.exe. Very simply, just run that as an admin. And there's no configuration here at all. So you just click next, accept the terms and conditions, click next, and it'll be ready to install. One last thing that I forgot to mention before is that the LanSchool connection server and the LanSchool report server work together in tandem. They communicate by broadcasting directly to each other. For this reason, they do need to be on the same subnet. Now, 99% of the time that isn't a problem. Your servers will tend to be quite closely clustered together in terms of their IPs, but we just want to make sure that you're not running the connection server at one location and the report server at another. It won't work. They do need to be sitting next to each other so they can talk with each other. Assuming that's done, click install. And this is the stage where you'll start getting your error messages if you haven't followed any of the previous steps. So if IIS is in place, if your ports aren't free or .NET is missing, it will prompt you at this point to resolve that specific issue. So just go away, resolve, and then you can come back again. There we go. The LanSchool report server will also configure firewall exceptions for you if you're using Windows Firewall. If you're using any other kind of third-party firewall software, please just take some time to whitelist the application and the process as well. Now that's been done, it will prompt you to restart. And you'll be glad you didn't install it somewhere crucial. Okay, we are back, having rebooted. So just a couple of quick things to check before we launch the report server. If you open up your task manager and go to processes, you're looking for that process right there, the LSK and noun application. Once that's running, that's a good indicator. It means the report server is up and running. The other thing to check is if you go to services.msc and you want to look for a very similar LSK announce service, which should also be running by default. In the event that that doesn't automatically launch when you reboot, you may have to launch that as a one-time process. So to do that, just go to the C drive, go to program files, go to the report server, and scroll all the way down. And there you've got the report server.exe. So you can just run that, and that will run as a first-time process. You'll never have to touch it again. Once that's been done, you can go and start the service manually, and once that's been done again, you'll never have to do it twice. So now that that's been installed, you can see we've barely even made an impact on the server. If anything, it looks like it's using slightly less memory. CPU is obviously fine, traffic is quite minimal at the moment, although I only have 10 clients. So the very last thing to test for our install is just to log in and just make sure that the web interface loads. So to do that, just open up a browser on the server itself, i.e. pre-installed. Type in localhost, and that's the screen you're looking for. Assuming you've got that screen, you can now access that from any PC on the network just by typing in the server IP into the address bar in the browser of that PC. In the next video, we'll be taking a look at how to run an update against your report server now that you've installed it. After that, we'll be logging in and having an explore of the interface and some of the various reports you can run. If you did enjoy this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and we'll be updating this playlist hopefully every day or every other day with new content all the way through to the full 20 videos. Hit like if you enjoyed it, if you found it useful. If you didn't, please leave a comment, we can get in touch with you. Or you can always just give us a call or drop us an email, contact information in the description below. Thanks very much.